Welcome back to the Fanspeak Network and another episode of Sibling Showdown. And this is our strategy edition of Sibling Showdown. That's right. Every single week, we're doing about 4 to 5 live drafts here on Fanspeak Network. So be sure to like this episode and subscribe to the Fanspeak Network so you know when we're going live. But in addition to all the amazing live drafts we do, we're doing a weekly strategy show. I know Justin and Andrew are doing a weekly strategy show. These help frame things, whether it's strategies, player takes, whatever, that we can keep in mind as we are doing all these fun live drafts and seeing everything unfold in the BBM5 streets. So with that, Steve, how are you doing today? Are you excited to give a preview, talk about late round tight ends and late round quarterbacks?
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. And I do think, you and I are both more in the taking 3 of each, quarterbacks and tight ends. So that's where you do kind of get that third guy in the late rounds. And so if you can find that guy, that diamond in the rough, whether it was like the, Laporta's, Ferguson, McBride's last year in tight end, or, from quarterbacks, guys like Stroud, Love, et cetera, you can obviously elevate big time by nailing those guys.
Exactly. No matter what your build structure is, I think these are helpful, but especially if you do lean into some 3 quarterback builds or 3 tight end, late round tight end builds, it's certainly helpful for that, as even probably more so. But it's going to be fun. Steve wrote an article about late round quarterbacks he wants to target a lot this year. I wrote an article about 8 late round tight ends that I'm trying to get a lot of exposure to. And so we're just going to hit through why for each of these players quickly, so that you can keep it in mind maybe, and as you're watching your exposures on these late round tight ends and quarterbacks. Before we get into that, I want to mention bestballoverlay.com. Use code FANSPEAK for $10 off a month. Best Ball Overlay obviously gives you the overlay, so you're helping to make decisions on correlations and bringbacks live in drafts. But it also allows you to do rankings. It allows you to, my favorite and Steve's favorite feature, portfolio optimizer. It allows you to manage that portfolio, to see the combinations you're putting together. They just added a graph feature, which I should have showed on our recent live show, to show different graphs and stacks and everything. So they're adding more and more each week. I highly recommend it. It's less than the cost of a BBM each month, just $20 a month with code FANSPEAK on bestballoverlay.com. Okay, Steve, I'm going to bring over fanspeak.com now. And while I'm here, I'm just going to show you, if you notice, it's a clean looking site, no ads. If you don't want ads, just simply click Ultimate GM, no ads. Helps supports the channel, supports the website, just $19.95 for an entire year. And there's obviously other features included in that, but it also gets you no ads site-wide. Just wanted to throw that out here. Also, you see Best Ball headquarters. That's where basically all of our Best Ball content, rankings, articles, shows, of course, linked to Best Ball Overlay lives. So I'm going to go there, or you could click the Best Ball tab. And as you can see here, it links to, the network, Best Ball Overlay, Steve's rankings, which is updated every Tuesday. But we've got hubs, which makes it easy to find what articles you want to read about. So if you want player takes, you've got that, a hub for that. Strategy takes, we got a hub for that. Bye weeks, Best Ball playoffs. So the different hubs will kind of have you covered. And then, of course, the most recent articles are then at the top. And then, of course, the most recent show is at the top. So just want to give you a quick tour of that. But let's jump in. Steve actually wrote an article about favorite tight ends to target each section of the draft. That's why he's got Kittle, because one of his favorite mid-round tight ends. But let's first start with late-round quarterbacks to target in Best Ball this year. Steve, you got Baker as the poster, as the featured image. And of course, he'll be in here. But as you can see, we're talking about after ADP of 120, and there are plenty. I mean, I talk about all the time how I honestly love the quarterbacks 7th, 8th round on, especially when you get Dak to fall or Love to fall. When you can get Dak and Love and Purdy, and then you've got the Tua and Justin Herberts of the world, Lawrence, obviously the rookies, it's crazy. And then, we'll get into some later, like the Aaron Rodgers and Cousins. So it's wild, the amount of quarterback value, which of course leans into us kind of liking the 3 quarterback builds. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about these point by point really quick, Steve. So the first 2 you have here, Tua going to ADP of 125. Just give me your quick summary there and we'll hit these quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Tua, we know essentially these last 2 years when he's healthy, he's been excellent. And and he had some of the biggest spike weeks games possible of these last 2 years. And that's a big reason why he's been on the BBM winner of the last 2 seasons. So
Yeah, that doesn't hurt to know either. Yeah.
why not make it the trifecta? Yeah, he finished his QB9 last year for much of the year, and that's with the second half of the year when some of the receivers started getting banged up, the O-line was getting banged up, they weren't throwing as much. So it went down early in the year. He was QB4, 5, 6 for the first, depends on where you cut it off, 7, 8,
Yeah.
8, 9 weeks. So yeah, you're getting some really big outputs from him. Yeah, he wasn't great in the playoffs, but he got you. He's
He
the
helped
guy
get you there.
advanced you to the playoffs.
Exactly. And sometimes that's what it's all about who you're putting together to advance the playoffs and then push through the playoffs. So let's go to your next one. 8, Justin Herbert, ADP currently of 133. I think this is just criminally low. Sometimes he even falls into the one. I mean, sometimes he goes earlier, but sometimes he even falls past that and goes into the early 140s. Just wild to me that this elite of a quarterback's going that late. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, just right there, he's finished as quarterback 9 to 11 his first 3 years in the league. He was 17 last year, but obviously he stopped playing after week 13. He got injured like in the second drive of
I know. My teams took a hit with that.
And when he got injured, if you just sort through the first 13 weeks last year, he was QB6. So he was just on an amazing pace once again. Could have been top 5 once again, like he was 2 years ago. Yes, he lost a lot of weapons, but they added some back, and I still think he has enough rushing upside. He's going to throw enough. Yeah, he might not be a top 5 quarterback if the volume's cut down a little bit this year, but I mean, where he's going and what he can be is insane.
I think
we're going to be a top 10 guy.
Yeah, I think we're going to look back at the end of the season and say, we let Justin Herbert go in whatever, the 13th, 14th, like in the 130s. That's just wild. I think we might say the same thing for your next 2 guys potentially here. Kirk Cousins, ADP 146. We've got the 2 Achilles recovery guys. Yes, they're older veterans, but they both are brand new to their teams. You could actually probably kind of break these down together, Steve, because both Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers played 3 snaps, are essentially new to their teams and are, while they're older veterans and coming off Achilles tears, they, are fully recovered from their practicing. I mean, Rodgers was going to try to come back last season, and they're in a position to just absolutely elevate weapons that are starved for a quarterback in both situations, I just think both situations have the opportunity to elevate all their weapons. Now, what are your thoughts on these 2?
Yeah. So, and that's the first thing. Both the Falcons and Jets are very similar. A dual threat running back, elite running back, a top end receiver that we love. Both drafted the same year, London and Wilson. Mm-hmm. They both went out and got a number 2 receiver, Mooney and Mike Williams. Mike Williams is better, but obviously the injury situation. I'd say the Jets have some more depth at receiver, but the Falcons obviously have the much better tight end in Kyle Pitts. So, and both have a lot of offensive line talent. The Jets went out this year in the offseason to get it. Falcons already had it. So, Falcons had the advantage with the new head coach, Zach Robinson, who comes from the Sean McVay tree.
Yeah.
Worked, with Kevin O'Connell, also, that same tree that Kirk Cousins has been in essentially for his career because he was with Sean McVay in Washington. So, yeah, I just think there's just a lot to love with Kirk Cousins' situation that he's going in, also the dome environment, just fantastic environment there. Aaron Rodgers, though, and the other thing with Kirk Cousins is when he went down, he was QB6 in fantasy points. And even prior to that, even years prior to that, he's always been QB 10 to 12. He's been Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable, like a late end QB1. We're getting him this late in the draft. Aaron Rodgers, 2 years ago, his last year in Green Bay, it wasn't as pretty, but that's also because they had no receivers. They traded away Devontae Adams. They had just no receivers or tight ends that year.
And the rookies they have that are blossoming now were rookies.
They were rookies, and they were also injured. I mean, Watson missed most of the time. Dobbs missed a considerable amount of time. They didn't have the tight ends. They didn't have Reed or Wicks. So it was just a mess. But the 2 years previous to that, Aaron Rodgers was league MVP.
Yeah.
And like I said, he goes into with these weapons. He goes in with an elite O line now with all that they've done to upgrade that. I mean, if he's healthy, you gotta love it. And he runs the offense. We can say it's Nathaniel Hackett's offense.
Yeah.
He runs this offense.
Yeah.
He's always had a high level of throwing inside the red zone because
Yeah.
guess what? He trusts himself. And sure, why would you not when you can put the ball on placement like he can? And yeah, I just think there's just a ton of upside for both these quarterbacks, and where you're getting them is just criminally low. If they're healthy, both not only have, both have outside top 5 capabilities, but both can very well be in the top 10.
Top 10, yeah, which is, you mentioned it here. Now let's go to the cover boy here, Baker Mayfield. Of course, exceeded everybody's expectations last year. Yes, he lost his offensive coordinator, going to be the Carolina head coach, but everybody was kind of putting Mayfield away and saying, "Oh, he's done though," and he was like the last quarterback drafted last year, and I think one of the playoff weeks he had a massive spike week, but as you say in this article, he finished as QB 10. A lot to like. His weapons are back, so. I mean, ADP of 169. Break it down a little any further.
Yeah, and that's just it. No, I mean, at this point last year, when camps were starting, people were tweeting out Kyle Trask videos. So, and it wasn't just, it was week 15 last year, but he even extended into the actual NFL playoffs. He had 2 really strong weeks against the Eagles and the Lions. So it's not like, he still continued to show. That's why they re-signed him. Last year, Chris Godwin was kind of banged up. Hopefully he's healthier. Trey Palmer showed a little bit. They went out and added Jalen McMillan, so they're deeper and should be healthier at wide receiver. Kate Otten.
What round was McMillan?
I believe 3rd.
Okay.
Kate Otten was better down the stretch last year and in the playoffs. So, maybe he's a better outlet. Same with Rashard White. So, and the O-line should be better this year. So even though, yes, they lose Dave Canales, I just think there's a lot of reasons to think that Baker can at least, he might not be QB 10. I mean, some of that was, of course, because guys like Herbert and Cousins are getting injured and falling. But he produced, and that's why I said he had the same points per game as Tua last year. Yeah. So, I think he can be a good, solid producing quarterback for you, and we'll have a couple spike weeks for sure.
Okay, 3 more to round out our Steve's favorite late round quarterbacks. Geno Smith, ADP 169. This has been one that I haven't clicked enough yet, and I do need to get more of, and especially his earlier weapons like DK Metcalf. But break down Smith for me really.
Yeah, so I mean, 2 years ago, Geno was the late round stud that you wanted. Yeah. Last year, he disappointed. Some of that was due to injury, and some of that was due to injury not that he was involved in. I mean, there was at one point, I think he had 4 offensive linemen. Yeah. Just a total mess there. He's got 3 really good receivers. He's got Noah Fant, the new coach Ryan Grubb from the University of Washington. Obviously threw the ball quite a bit with Michael Penix in college. And, I think that could fit Geno. And I think you could see a little bit of a bounce back with these weapons and just getting aggressive more for Geno. The other thing is he ran only about half of he did 2 years ago. So if that improves a little bit, he has that kind of upside.
Yeah. I mean, just how bad luck they ran on offensive line was wild last year. Yeah. So that's going to be huge for him. And of course the offensive coordinator change could be massive for him as well. This is one you and I are definitely locked arms on as one of our favorite late round quarterbacks. Will Levis going ADP 178, might be a little higher since the time of writing this article, but you're getting him in the 170s bottom line. And I know I've said over and over and over, I think Titans are the undervalued stack. I'm not promising a Texans level breakout, but they are just absolutely set up to succeed if they can stay healthy. Break it down for me.
Yeah, and that's what it boils down to. They brought in no competition at quarterback. He is clearly well ahead of Malik Willis and anyone else in the room there. I mean, they brought in Mason Rudolph, but that I don't consider that competition. They went out, major coaching upgrades, major offensive line upgrades, and major weapons upgrades, keeping DeAndre Hopkins, bringing in Tony Pollard for another pass catching running back to go along with Tajay Spears, bringing in both both Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd,
Yeah.
who knows his offensive system from working with Callahan in Cincinnati. So, there are no excuses. And as I said here, even if he's not a great real life quarterback, he's probably going to be throwing enough that he's going to have enough big fantasy games, and he's got a little mobility also.
I was going to say he's got definitely a little mobility to him too.
So, there could just be enough there that he's producing some big spike weeks for sure.
Absolutely, especially in a 3 quarterback build as your third quarterback. I think there's a ton of value there. Okay, final quarterback in this list, Russell Wilson, basically essentially going last round or 2. Obviously, I know some people want to draft Justin Fields in the hopes that he enters the picture, but it has been pretty clear Wilson's the starting quarterback. I think he is similar to Levis, set up to succeed in the Steelers offense. We know what the Steelers want to do. They want to run the ball, play great defense, but Wilson can still put up numbers as your quarterback 3. What do you think?
Oh yeah. I mean, the Broncos were not exactly a high volume passing offense last year. And he was quarterback 11 at the time that he got benched. And he was benched more so due to his contract situation.
Yeah.
And the issue is if he gets his contract is not going to be the issue. He's benched in Pittsburgh. I mean, they're paying him league minimum. So he's only benched if he's just totally underperforming. And or injury is really the only fear I think we have here. And I mean, his receivers are solid, but a good tight end. Pat Freiermuth, 2 good running backs. But the Steelers the last 2 years have really improved the offensive line. New offense coordinator. What's his name from the Falcons?
Oh, Arthur Smith. Yeah,
Arthur Smith. Thank you. Look at what he did in reviving Ryan Tannehill's career with Tennessee. That year and a half that he had Tannehill as a starter in Tennessee, Tannehill had numerous 20, 25, 30-point games. He was a top-end fantasy quarterback during that time frame. So I don't see any reason why Russell Wilson can't have that same kind of resurgence here.
I 100% agree. I'm definitely, when I get Pickens or any kind of Steelers stacks, I'm definitely considering him late as my last third quarterback, because essentially in most drafts he's going 17th, 18th round. All right, going back over to our best ball headquarters. As you can see, I wrote an article a week or two ago about late round tight ends that I'm targeting this year, and there are 8 ones that I'm featuring the most. So I'll break it down kind of in clumps here, Steve, and then you can kind of talk it through. Whether you're, again, building a 2 tight end or a 3 tight end build, I think we did a draft where Hunter Henry was our second. We stopped because we had Ferguson. I think that's very viable for these first couple. Or you could certainly build a 3 late round tight end with 3 of these guys. So I'll start with Hunter Henry, ADP of 160, Tyler Conklin, ADP of 176, Noah Fant, ADP of 179, all guys, between 160 and 180. I like them all because they're all going to be the tight end 1, not really having like a major split situation. In Hunter Henry's case, could be a top target. But certainly in touchdown hunting on underdog are all going to be great red zone targets. And especially in the Jets case, could be on a potentially top offense. What are your thoughts on these 3?
Yeah, I mean, all 3. I think Hunter Henry, especially with the Alex Smith coming from the Browns offense, we saw Drew Pettinzer for the Cardinals. How they feature the tight end. He came from the same offensive system. There's no receiver here to really threaten. Even if Polk is better than expected, Henry should be the guy. And Conklin, being that guy for Aaron Rodgers. Look, a couple of years ago, Robert Tonyan was like tight end 2 or 3 because Aaron Rodgers just decided to throw him 13 touchdowns or 14 touchdowns.
Exactly. Remember, wasn't there one game he had like 4 or something?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just Aaron Rodgers can, when he's on and healthy, he can do Aaron Rodgers things. And if teams start double teaming Garrett Wilson, guess who gets the touchdowns? It's going to be tough. Conklin had the volume last year. He just had no touchdowns.
Right.
Guess what happens in an Aaron Rodgers offense?
Yeah, you get touchdowns. Exactly. Yeah, and then I need to get more Noah Fant. You talked about the Seattle offense. I need to absolutely get more exposure. He's one I've been trying to push up, and his ADP is starting to rise, by the way. So he's going more in the 160s now.
Yeah, no, and he went from being part of a 3-headed tight end room with Colton Parkinson and Will Dissly to now he's the guy. I mean, so I think he's just in a much better spot here.
Okay, and then I'm going to group these next three, and then I've got a flyer. Obviously, we talk about a lot on shows. So we got Chigakonkwo. Again, the ADPs were about 2 weeks ago, a week or two ago. Chigakonkwo, ADP 188. Jonnu Smith, ADP 189. That one is definitely rising. I know he's in the, I believe, 170s now. And Jawan Johnson, ADP 209. He obviously fell with the injury. So with these three, this is a situation. Obviously, I think the whole Titans offense is undervalued. And that includes Chigakonkwo. So I'm trying to get pieces of every single one. I have every single Titans skill player ranked ahead of their ADP. I'm getting tons of shares of Titans. I just think they're the clear undervalued offense. I talk about that. You and I both beaten that drum all draft season. So that goes for Chig too. Jonnu Smith, I just think, when you put Mike McDaniel together with an athletic, this type of athletic profile, he could do some scary things. The way he uses motion and all his various formations. I just think that he could absolutely use Jonnu Smith as a weapon. I no longer do we think that it's just Waddle or Hill and Waddle. I think they might get some Odell going, and then of course Jonnu Smith. So when you're getting it that late to access to a top offense, I love it. And Jawan Johnson, this is the guy who was a Week 17 hero, and we're just leaving him in the dust now just because of the injury. Reports are he should be ready now. Could it be a slow ramp up? Could it take a while? Is there re-injury risk? Sure, but look at the ADP. You get what you're that's baked into the ADP. So for all those reasons, I'm absolutely willing to take shots as Jawan Johnson is my third tight end, another very, very athletic tight end in an offense with a new offensive coordinator as well in New Orleans. So absolutely love him as like a third tight end. What do you think? Thoughts on these three before we get to our last flyer?
Yeah, no, we've talked a lot about Chigakonkwo. He's highly athletic tight end. Just unfortunately, that offense didn't throw the ball a lot. And when they got in the red zone, they were not throwing. They were running Derrick Henry.
Which is why you and I have more Derrick Henry than we do some of the Ravens pass catchers.
But now that's likely to flip big time. So, Chig could be a big red zone guy. And same with Jonnu. Like Jonnu, you're probably gonna be touchdown hunting. But Durham Smythe was third on team targets last year. That might be Odell for sure this year, but still, like they threw to the tight end. It was just it was Durham Smythe. Now it could be Jonnu, and like you said, there could just be more meat on the bone there with Mike McDaniel figuring out how to utilize his skill set.
Sure.
And then finally, Jawan Johnson. I've said it before. The Saints, their touchdown rate last year was tied for 11th in the league. That's good, and that's on what we consider very anemic Pete Carmichael offense. Adding in Kubiak's offense and the athletic upside of Jawan Johnson, we've seen for 2 years now. Jawan Johnson can be like a multi-touchdown game guy. Just last year, it got very spread out. They brought in Jimmy Graham. They had Taysom Hill, all this kind of weird stuff that they were doing. Now it sounds like Hill's not really going to do the tight end stuff. They no longer have the ties to Taysom Hill with Carmichael gone, Sean Payton gone. Don't be surprised if Jawan Johnson's healthy. He could have a really good target share.
Yeah. And then finally, we've talked about all draft season. We like Jatavion Sanders, rookie tight end from the Panthers, drafted in the 4th round. So that's why he just gets left in the dust in the last round of best ball drafts. We talked about all draft season. I'm not saying we're having a Sam Laporta breakout, but I do think he has a path to tight end 1 on an improved offense that's starved for weapons. So that's kind of what I'm looking here, whether it's with a Bryce Young stack or not. I just think it's a fine third tight end in a 3 tight end build. I wouldn't ever do probably Sanders. I probably have done it once or twice, but I wouldn't do it in a 2 tight end build. But for a 3 tight end build, I just think it's worth a shot because, a lot of these guys, you are looking for that upside, which multiple late round tight ends hit with Laporta and Ferguson and McBride last year. You're looking for those guys with potential upside. And I think Jatavion Sanders can at least make a case for that. So Any final thoughts on that? And then we can wrap
Yeah,
up.
I mean, I think Sanders was considered by most draft people to be the number 2 tight end in this class. Athletically gifted. I think he's going to have to earn the job. But yeah, the guys in front of him are guys like Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas. I mean, just not big threats. So it's possible he still is just, underwhelming, but at least there's a path there.
At least there's a path. That's kind of the first box you have to check. So again, as you can see, we love doing all of this content on Fanspeak Network, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But we also have all this free content on fanspeak.com. And, they're usually just these quick, easily digestible articles that can help you apply different, whether it's strategies or player takes or best ball playoffs or galaxy brain ideas. We write about it all. And again, you can find it over here on the Best Ball headquarters. Everything is there for you on fanspeak.com. So I think that covers it, Steve. We covered late round tight ends. We covered late round quarterbacks. These can help you in any type of build, and we hope you guys have found this useful. Again, be sure on your way out to like this episode, subscribe to the Fanspeak Network, because you got 4 to 5 live drafts a week, plus usually 2 strategy shows. So we got plenty more coming, looking to do like a live stream in August. So plenty more fun announcements, live stream shows, all that good stuff coming here on the Fanspeak Network. So for Steve, I'm Meg. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.